Okay, man, are you ready to go?
I'm ready to go. Now, come on, now crank this motherfucker up.
Break it down like this.
Hello, Internet. Gino, that Gino Greco here again with another episode of Deep Listens. And today we are going to be discussing God of War. No, not the PlayStation 2 one, the new one, the PlayStation 4 one. And joining me, as always, to discuss all things Norse and Vikings, I am joined by Pete Busby. Pete, how many of these frickin' Viking games have we played at this point? It's got to be close to 10, right? Gotta be?
It's got to be. I mean, we've done so much Viking game content. We're basically just a Viking game podcast. That's what we do. But this week's fun fact, not about Vikings. I thought we could use something a little light. You know, this game's a little heavy. You know, God of War, it's not jaunty. So how about some fun facts about owl tummies?
Oh!
Yep.
I like any fact about a tummy.
Yeah, so I got two of them. One you might know, the other one's a little bit more of a deep cut. So owl tummies. Owls, baby owls, can't hold their heads up for too long because they're so big and so heavy. So baby owls sleep on their tummies, lying flat.
Ah!
It looks very silly. Second owl tummy fact. Baby owls also can't really regulate their heat well because they don't have furs. So a lot of mama owls will lose all the feathers on their stomachs so they can better transfer heat to the baby owls.
Aw.
Yep, just heartwarming all around.
I thought it was going to be an owl pellet fact, so I'm much happier learning.
No,
the
they're
actual
cool
owl
too,
fact.
though. They're cool too.
Yeah, owls, they don't chew. They swallow everything whole and then vomit up what they can't digest.
Mm-hmm.
Nope, there's no good transition from that. I'm sorry. Hey, our third co-host is Game Maker M. Hello, M. Palladino. How you doing?
Hello. I'm doing okay. I'm just seeing if my brother wants to be on this show.
So if a fourth voice suddenly appears, that'll be
There might be another one. But if not, hello. I'm Game Maker M. I picked this game. This game is widely regarded as one of the best games ever. For reasons. That's what the wiki says.
The wiki says it.
It has been cited as among the greatest video games ever made and was awarded Game of the Year for, I guess, 2018, because that's when it came out.
Well, I only respect one Game of the Year determination, and I don't remember voting that Game of the Year.
Deep Listen's Game of the Year, coming soon.
2018. Yep.
Yeah.
Which was what was the 2018 one? I need to go into an old spreadsheet. I'll figure it out. With the true Game of the Year in 2018, of course, as we all know, was Chrono Trigger.
Ah, yes.
Good choice.
A little late, but
with runners up, Papers, Please, FTL, Night in the Woods, Castlevania, Symphony of the Night, and Ocarina of Time.
Damn, it was a banger year.
That was a hell of a year.
Well, maybe God of War 2022. Who knows?
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe it'll win this Game of the Year. Who knows? I don't know that it will.
It's not exactly up against a stunning array this year.
No, 1/3 of our games were deliberately chosen to be shitty.
It was the year of torture, drawing quickly to a close. I hope this was sufficiently torturous.
Yes. So before we get into God of War and all things God of War, a reminder, you can get in touch with the show at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistens.libsyn.com. We have our comment sections, and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. And you can support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens. And if you're in the position to do so, please do donate to the National Network of Abortion Funds. We are still raising money for that because stuff is still bad in the U.S. With respect to reproductive rights. So without further ado, the Patreon we mentioned, if you support it, you get access to our Discord. which would allow you to talk with the host of the show, suggest games, pick out a game for Off the Deep End. We're only a few people away from having to play Sonic 06, but mostly the most immediate and regular influence you feel from the Patreon is, of course, the Discord report.
The Discord report. Boop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop-a-doop. My mouth is full.
Is that part of the Discord report or that ancillary?
It's just full of Discord report.
Is that what's popping on the Discord right now?
I took a bite of food right before you kicked it over.
Oh no!
I
didn't
plan that well.
My mouth is not full of food, but my mind is full of Discord facts.
Give us some Discord facts.
So, co-hosts of Off the Deep End, Zombie Pie, and Braden Arbitrary Water Redacted, the Redacted brothers, they participated in Extra Life this weekend. So they did some Extra Life shenanigans. They played all of Aliens Colonial Marines, which apparently is not a good game.
Why?
To raise money for children, for charity, for children's hospitals.
But was it worth it?
Apparently, they somehow roped 4 people into playing. So that's nightmarish. Some people were talking about the new Pokemon. I guess the new Pokemon's good.
Yeah, Scarlet.
Oh, yeah. We're thinking of getting a Pokemon Showdown league or something going, where we'll get Gino to actually play a Pokemon game.
But
You
for
don't like
serious.
the Pokes, Gino?
I like Pokemon. My problem is like to play the high tier there's the easy way of playing Pokemon where you're just catching whatever you want. You're beating up on the PC characters. You're just stomping, right? That's the normal Pokemon experience. But then you can get into competitive Pokemon, which requires like the jump from playing the game casually to competitive is like thousands and thousands of hours because you need to just breed Pokemon until you get the perfect EVs and I need to give this move to this parent Pokemon so they can pass it to their child Pokemon because they can't just get the moves. It's a whole thing.
They have made it a lot easier in the newer games.
But this game,
it's still annoying. But
Pokemon Showdown just skips all that and just says pick what Pokemon you want, pick what moves they have, go.
Pokemon Showdown is basically a online client where you just like make a Pokemon team and then you do battles with other people. And you can use like all the different rule sets. So you could narrow it down by like tiers that Pokemon are in. So if you want to just play like baby Pokemon, you could do that. If you want to do just like first gen, like if you don't like all the new rules they added since 1996, you could do that. There's a room for everything. So
back when Pokemon was pure, 1996.
Exactly. If you like the busted Gen 1 stuff, if you like Psychic only being weak to Bug and there are no Bug moves, this is the tier for you.
Yeah.
If you like when Special was 2 stats.
Exactly. No, before that it was just 1 stat, and then they split
I
it
meant
into
there was
2.
1 stat that covered attack and defense. Yes.
Yeah. So I think if Gino is going to play any Pokemon game, it would be this one.
I don't know. Yep. That sounds like an investment level I could get with. But the idea of like this egg only has 3 EVs, I need it to have 5
Breed
EVs.
forever.
Yeah, that
Breed
sounds
Gotta get those
forever.
dittos, bro. Gotta get those dittos.
Yep.
So that's going on. The next set of Final Fantasy TCG is getting spoiled, so people have been discussing that. We've had a lot of Marvel Snap discussion because it's swept the Discord slightly. We both got into it. Em, what do you think?
I am a sucker for any kind of card game, and this one is fairly novel compared to some of the other ones that we've played. I could talk about it a little bit. Marvel Snap is a phone game. It's also on Steam. It is a card game with all your favorite Marvel characters, like Squirrel Girl.
Yeah.
The unbeatable Squirrel Girl.
Yeah. Do you remember Ironheart?
You will soon, because the new movie's out now.
Yeah.
Hazmat?
Nightcrawler. Yeah. You know, all those ones. And also the ones that you actually know, they're probably in a higher tier than you can actually play. So don't try to focus on them too much. But it's like, it's basically you have 3 locations and you're trying to get control of them based on points on the cards. And you can only put 4 cards in each location, but a lot of them have special abilities because they are superheroes. So if you have like Nightcrawler who teleports around, you can like move him to different locations. And all the locations have different stuff on them. So
And each location has like its own mechanical identity too.
exactly. Yeah. So it's neat. I've played it up to like level 400 at this point.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
That feels
So,
high. That feels like a big number.
It's getting towards like, there are 3 tiers basically. There's tier 1, which is up to like level 200, and then pool 2 is up to like 500, and then past that is like the crazy shit, where you got like characters that you actually have heard of, or you know,
You're not a huge Enchantress fan?
Yeah, like I don't know. I'm sure some people who are into comics know who Wave is.
Wave?
Wave. Mr. Negative.
Oh, of course, Mr. Negative.
Yeah.
I feel like you're making up characters now. This is a test, right?
Oh yes,
This
Morph.
would be a good test. Mysterio. You saw
I
that
saw the
movie.
Spider-Man movie. Yeah.
Yeah, there you go. We
Jake
got one.
Gyllenhaal.
Yeah, exactly. So, Thor. There's one. I think you'll recognize that guy.
Odin.
Odin.
Transition.
Odin's played.
You mean Thor's dad?
That's
Yeah.
a great time to jump to the next thing.
Yeah, I was gonna say. Oh, I've got 2 segues. Speaking of characters who appeared in a Thor movie, I have my shout out of the week. And this week, my shout out is for an actor who is in one of those Thor movies, Jeff Goldblum. He played a guy in one of the
Okay.
Thor movies. He's
Yeah,
got a
He
show
sure did.
on Disney Plus called The World According to
Oh.
Jeff Goldblum, and it's delightful.
I thought you were just going to shout out Jeff Goldblum, like you've been looking at his
Just in general.
his work or something.
No. He's got a show where it's just like they give Jeff Goldblum a topic, and then he just like talks to people and is weird and
Sure.
learns about the topic.
Yeah, that feels like Jeff Goldblum.
So
Yeah.
like Jeff Goldblum learns about video games. Jeff Goldblum learns about jeans, like the pant, not the body.
Did he learn about video games?
He did.
What video games did he learn about?
He went to a what was the tournament? I think it was a Counter-Strike tournament, like a big
Oh, hell
Counter-Strike
yeah.
tournament. Spoke to a team, like watched the event. Then he did. He went to an audio design studio that like does mobile games and like saw them put together the audio of a game and like made sound effects for it. And then he went to a LARPing place and he helped LARP, which it was very funny to have people explain to him like what LARPing is. And then he's Jeff Goldblum, a fucking actor.
Yeah.
It's like, so like we're
I-
embodying like the role of a character. And he's like,
I think he'll
how
get that.
strange.
Oh, weird. Who would do something like that?
For their entire life. Yeah, so
Yeah.
like that was funny, and then they put him in VR for a minute. And that was fun.
That's fun.
But yeah, he is as bizarre at all times as he is in his movies, and that's great. The tattoo episode is very good. I recommend that one. The bike episode is fun. But yeah, it's a good time. If you've already subscribed to Disney Plus, you have it whether you want it or not. So just give it a check out. And then the second segue, obviously, Jeff Goldblum is obviously in the Thor movies, but you know what else Thor is in? God of War, the newest, the 2018.
Good segue.
We
Good
got
segue.
there.
God of War 2018. You picked this in the year of torture. Why?
I picked this in the year of torture because this is a very long game. But also, God of War, released in 2018, is a sequel,
Is
sort
that a
of.
question?
Yes,
It's-
it
I
is a
can't
sequel.
answer you. Oh,
It
okay.
is a sequel, sort of to the, but it's also a remake of the God of War series.
Kind of.
Kind of. You're playing as Kratos. If I pronounce his name wrong, please don't mention it. I'm trying real hard not to say Kratos.
Kratos.
Kratos. Hey, Kratos. So, Kratos is going on a journey with his son, boy, who has a name.
Yeah, you're not just his son, boy. It's not one term.
His son, boy,
Yes.
also named Atreus. But he only refers to him really as boy. They're going on a journey because Atreus' mother has died, and they're going to the highest peak in all the realms in this Norse Scandinavian realm to scatter her ashes. And also they're going to meet a lot of characters along the way who are really interested in Kratos for some reason,
Yes.
because he's the god of war.
So
Spoilers.
why don't we start out? I'll try to set the table here. What do y'all know about God of War?
Okay. Should I start as probably the person who's least familiar with God of War?
Sure, go for
Go
it.
for it.
So I know a decent amount. I know he wasn't the God of War
Correct.
at first, and then the gods killed his family. And
Kinda.
he okay. I'm just gonna say things. We'll correct them at the end. So he decided to cover his body in their ashes, which is why he's kind of gray.
Kinda.
And then he
yeah.
went and killed all the gods until he became God of War.
Kind of. You're close. Okay,
End of list.
M.
So I know almost as much as Pete. I know that he had he went after Ares, who was the god of war, because his family got killed because of what Ares did. There was like some betrayal or something. And then he was like, I'm going to fuck you up. And so he went and fucked him up, fucked up a lot of gods along the way. And there was another god of war where he did it again. He went after Zeus, I think. And then there was another one. And I don't know what happened in the third one. But it's basically you're fighting big monsters and also killing gods. There is a lot of like, I know he had like those chains. Like he had, what the hell were they? They were like blades on chains that he just swung around.
They're like the chaos chains or something. Yeah, they're like sweet.
Yeah.
Sick.
Yeah.
Why?
Yes.
Em, do you know why he has all those red tattoos? I feel like I'm missing something about that too.
Okay,
Huh.
I'll come in here.
Okay.
So
Yeah, help us
Kratos.
out, you know.
Kratos is a Spartan. This game started Greek mythology themed. So Kratos
Oh yeah,
was a
that's
Spartan.
probably important to mention.
He was in service of the god of war. One day, like after a battle or like during a battle, he entered a blood frenzy in combat, and he killed his wife and daughter
Oh, it's a
And-
Hercules situation.
and burned them
Okay.
to death in the haze of rage. When he burned them, their ashes got on him and turned him gray. And he's real mad about having, in service of Ares, killed his wife and daughter. So he wants to kill Ares. He then goes on to kill Ares, I think in the first God of War. It's either the first or the second that he actually kills him. Becomes the God of War, but realizes that he's been manipulated by Zeus and the other gods, and doesn't have autonomy. And he wants to be his own man, wants to be his own person, and believes that the gods fundamentally just play with human lives at no consequence. And also, he's really mad. I don't know if you know this about Kratos. He's an angry guy.
Yeah.
And then
pretty
he goes
pissed.
into Spartan Rage.
Yeah.
What are those things called?
Yep. So he's really mad. He kills all the Greek gods basically, except the ones who help him, and the one he has weird three-ways with, because the old games always had a threesome mini game. Always.
Got to, yeah.
So that was the first series of games. He basically killed all the Greek gods, became the god of gods, and the end of God of War 3. And then we have jumped smash cut to Norse mythology land, and it would appear like the very opening of this game, Kratos is basically building a funeral pyre for his wife. His son Atreus is there. His wife has died, seemingly of natural causes, I guess.
I don't think anyone dies of natural causes around the God of War. But...
Probably not. But after you build the funeral pyre and get a sack of her ashes, a god shows up looking for Kratos, and it is Balder, the Norse god of
of not feeling pain.
In Jotun, he has a shield and he's very unkillable. Mm-hmm. And I believe Balder does eventually die, and that's why Thor becomes more favorite. I don't remember all of Norse mythology. We've played through a bunch of these games, and I don't know where the game lore begins and the actual Norse mythology lore ends at this point. But it's clear that Balder knows that he's like, you're not from here, basically. You shouldn't be here. And so Kratos, I guess, has been laying low in kind of a magically protected forest with his wife and kid, just trying to leave all of, I guess, Greek mythology behind until Balder shows up and spurs Kratos to kind of... Well, first, his wife wanted him to drop off these ashes on the tallest mountain, but also Balder finds his house, so he's no longer safe where he is. So he and Boy go off on a journey to put Girl on the top of the mountain. And that's kind of it. Like, you're then going on a journey trying to put the ashes on the top of this mountain. We did not finish the game, but we will talk up to about the halfway point. For those who are familiar with the game, we're going to talk about till the top of a mountain.
The mountain.
The mountain. Mm-hmm. So I guess first off, what did y'all think of the story setup here? Like, did it grab you? Did it work for you? Like, given what you knew about Kratos, like the hard reset to a man and his child, what do you think?
I want to start with the first thing that struck me. So Kratos is a man. He's a masculine man.
Mm-hmm,
and the reason I know he's a masculine man is because it's very cold where he is.
Yep.
But despite that, Kratos, like all manly men, wears very little clothing in the cold. There are lots of things to dislike about toxic masculinity, but I think number one is the insistence on not being comfortable in the cold.
So I have a story to tell. It's going to be very quick, and it's related to this. I was going hiking in the cold the day after a snowfall recently, and during my hike, I encountered a man running in tighty whities, boots, and a hat and sunglasses. Nothing else.
He must have been absurdly manly.
With a dog. He looked like Dave Bautista.
Sure.
Very manly.
Just running around in tighty whities. It was maybe 30 degrees out, 40 degrees out. And this was how he decided to run through the world. So I feel, Pete, your analysis is correct. The manlier you are, the fewer clothes you wear when running in the cold.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Accurate.
Yeah. And to be fair, Kratos is wearing more clothes than he did in previous games.
That's true.
Okay. I mean, at least, they nodded to the exigencies of the circumstance.
He used to just have a loincloth and like wristbands. Now he's got a shirt, kinda like a tunic.
He's got shoulder pads.
He's got shoulder pads. That's something. He's got boots and shoulder pads. Em, did you find you emotionally resonated with Kratos and his complete disinterest in his son and his wife?
I mean, as far as it's kind of like he was in witness protection, and so he came out here to be in the the wilderness with his son and wife, and then all of his past came to haunt him, because you can't just be the god of war and then go away from that. I think you have to die in order to not be the god of war anymore. So he
Is it like the next one has to kill the last one sort of situation?
pretty sure. I don't think he is
That
like,
feels right.
I don't know if this is lore or if I just interpreted this, but I don't think he is like allowed to die.
Well, he's a god. He's not mortal. He
Yeah.
will not die of natural causes. Someone has to kill him if he's going to die.
Yes. So I thought that the initial conceit, where it's just like, all right, simple task, we're going up to that mountain that you can see in the distance, and then all of a sudden, all of these things start coming back because of who he is. That was compelling. I was fine with that simple setup, I'll say.
Yeah, I mean, for me, it was a little bit jarring just having played the earlier games because, I mean, Kratos is not a man of many words in any of these games. But I would say his defining characteristic here is more sad dad energy instead of angry rage. And Kratos was like a paper-thin character in the first few games. He was just mad. He punched things to death. He did sex with the ladies. He, ripped things heads off, and that was it. Like, there was barely any pathos there.
So he was always a model for young men to build themselves after, is what I'm hearing.
I mean, I believe David Jaffe, the main director of the first three games, said he was supposed to be like a teenage rage fantasy.
Yeah, that all feels right. Yeah,
a teenage boy fantasy, basically.
Checks out.
When did this game come out? The first one?
The original God of War?
2005,
I think?
5?
Let me check.
Earlier?
Let me check. But yeah, like his original design was like this infantile kind of understanding of what masculinity is, of what it means to be a man in the world. Like it was very much this paper thin character, and now he's been given the sad dad treatment that it seems like every game developer, when they have a child, feels like they need to make the sad dad game. Because sometimes you need to feel things about stuff,
Mm-hmm.
when you have a kid. And
yeah, lame.
It feels like Joel from The Last of Us.
Yep.
Right? Like, here's this kid who I'm not going to tell my feelings to, and I'm going to just kind of walk around teaching them how to kill because that's the only way I know how to show emotion.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know. We've played this game, this narrative, so many times now of the aloof father who only knows how to express themselves through violence, but they really care about their kid. That, I mean, there's some more nuance there, and I hope it changes more. But so far, this is very much like, hi, I'm Kratos, the God of War, which the original did come out in 2005, just confirmed. Yeah. I'm Kratos, I'm the God of War. I'm not going to talk to my son, and whenever my son talks, I'm going to tell him to push his emotions deep down inside until he dies.
It's basically like a Cormac McCarthy novel, but like without the pathos. Like if you took all the things that made Cormac McCarthy a good author and ripped them out, you'd get this.
Yeah. And we'll see if that changes. 'Cause part of me is like, is this it to this story? Because it got so many accolades that I was kind of expecting the story to, really move me. But I also need to keep in mind like what the standards are for moving story within a AAA game. And the standards are still incredibly low. If you have gameplay that's in any way inviting, you tend to be able to get away with almost anything from a narrative perspective and still get giant accolades. So we'll see.
We could ask an expert.
We can.
Do you want to bring in our guy?
Oh, if we've got an expert. Sure.
Well,
bring in an expert.
Hello.
Maybe not an expert, but he's played the game a lot.
Yeah, I mean, I would consider myself Pretty well versed in it. Maybe not an expert, but pretty well versed.
Em, you want to introduce our guest?
Hello, our guest. This is Rob Palladino, my brother. His credentials are he has completed this game 4 times and got platinum on PS4 with it. So
Damn.
I would assume he knows what he's talking about God of War 2018, and also maybe the new one, because he's been playing that since it dropped. How's that going? Don't spoil anything.
Let me tell you, my eyes are bloodshot red from Wednesday to just about 20 minutes before hopping on this call. I've been playing it virtually nonstop ever since getting it, and without spoiling any of the story details for the previous game and then also the new game. I will say that Ragnarok feels like a completely different game from my perspective.
Better or different?
Well, I mean, the combat is just completely different than it is in God of War 2018. They did a whole bunch of tweaks to kind of make it more aggressive, like God of War 3 was, where you had kind of arena-style fighting for most of the game. So they kind of married God of War 2018's combat system with what they built in God of War 3, and kind of put it all into one game in Ragnarok, which there is like a learning curve to it, but it has been incredibly fun, especially going from the beginning of the game and then kind of leveling up all your weapons, and then unlocking skills. I mean, it just gets incredibly good once you really sink your teeth into it.
Cool. So I think that's actually a good transition, because we were just kind of getting over the intro story stuff before you joined,
Right.
and kind of our initial impressions of the story. I was going to transition towards the gameplay. So the initial gameplay in God of War 2018, it's a melee combat, mostly melee combat, although you've got a series of kind of abilities and skills you can unlock. Most of the combat is done kind of Kratos plus Atreus, who is giving you support. You can press a button to have him shoot arrows, and then you're usually fighting, I would say, 2 to 5 enemies at a time, usually not that much more, and if there are more than that, they make the enemies super weak. And your skill set, you've got an axe, as opposed to the blades of chaos. Rob, do you know the name of the blades? What are the blades in the original game?
No, that's
six
what
chain
they're
blades.
called. Yep, Blades of Chaos.
They are the Blades of Chaos. Yep.
They are,
I was
yep.
like, that's too dumb of a name. That can't be it. Nope, that's totally it.
To be fair, 2005, that was about par for the course for game design.
Oh yeah.
We could just slap chaos on it.
I don't
and
know,
it probably
man.
would
Like,
work.
Blades of Chaos. That a good name?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's sick.
Well, yeah, because you have like kind of the early 2000s costume of like, you just add rage and chaos, and it's like big buzzwords that were used back then, both in like video games and like media in general.
Yeah, for sure.
My theory is it was in the aftermath of 9/11. Everyone's like, we're really mad still. We're at war with Iraq. We gotta get our rage out. And then they
Just
were
be
like, well,
just be
attack
dudes
us.
being guys.
exactly.
What if you were a Spartan and had anger?
Yes, and that's how this series came about.
Pretty
Exactly.
much.
You know what I never get about, like, this is tangential, very far afield, but sort of like the modern conservative movement's love of Sparta is like how much Sparta loved gay sex. Like, it was their favorite thing, and like the modern conservative movement just glosses over that whole part.
I was not expecting that direction.
Yeah,
Thank you for
went
going there.
a different direction than I was expecting.
Well, you need to understand,
I
Pete.
know that about Sparta. It's something the Spartans really liked.
Something you need to understand about that, Pete, is that the understanding of Sparta that is being imparted in that modern conservative movement is largely based on the film 300.
That is also true. Yeah.
Which did not have any of that. It was just naked ladies dancing around for no real reason. So, do with that what you may. So
I'm sorry, back to the game.
That's fine. Speaking of the combat in God of War 2018, you don't have the Blades of Chaos. You've got an axe. You've got a light attack, a heavy attack. You can also throw the axe and then press a button to call the axe back. You can do a light throw, a heavy throw. You eventually start unlocking runes and talismans. Mess me up. The runes are what is the one that you use for special attacks?
So those are runic abilities. So you'll have a light runic ability and then a heavy runic ability, and then also Atreus will have his own runic ability. And then
are those his summons?
Yeah, those are on cooldown.
So those are runic summons, yeah.
Yeah.
And then then you also have talismans too, which can kind of like boost your I mean, it really depends on which talisman you use. But they allow for combat benefits. Like there's one that you pick up pretty early on in the game if you do some looking around that lets you do like a realm shift. So it if you dodge out of the way at the perfect time, it like slows down time for a certain amount of seconds.
Gives you bullet time.
Yeah, exactly.
Sweet Kratos bullet time if you dodge perfectly. And it's got a parry system. Like it's a modern action game. If you've played a modern action game, it's like all of those, except very well polished.
I haven't played much God of War, obviously, considering my synopsis at the beginning. But I noticed in this game there may be like 2 or 3 cinematic insta-kill animations.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
Which doesn't feel like a lot. They get a little. I mean, you can only watch Kratos curb stomp like a zombie's head so many times before you're just like, meh. Is that like average for this series? Are there usually that
one per enemy type in the old ones? It used to just be the same fancy kill move every time. But I would say there's less. I don't know if there's less enemy variety in this game than there were in the previous games. But I feel like I'm fighting the same 4 enemies over and over and over and over again, and I'm about 10 hours in. I'm fighting Draugr, Reavers, trolls, and like weird subterranean worm things.
Oh, the Tazzle worm?
Yeah, the worms.
What I will say is that, again, this is considered my favorite game of all time, and I consider a perfect game. The one downfall for me is the enemy variety. I mean, you fight the same things from beginning to end, and if you're platinuming it, and you're just like, oh my god, I have to fight nightmares for the 50th time this hour. Like, that's the one thing that really didn't, do great in the 2018 game. But I will say for Ragnarok, there are tons of enemies, like different types of enemies.
Cool. Yeah, so that's kind of thing is like you've got this wide tool set, but you're generally I'm playing on normal. I find that I don't need to use most of it. Just wanging my axe against people's heads over and over and over again seems to get the job done.
Yeah, it's a technical God of War term.
Yeah.
Yep.
Just wang it.
But like the thunk that it makes when it hits a dude's head, it doesn't like it sounds like a frying pan hit him in the head in a Looney Tunes cartoon, not like I threw a big axe into them. And you throw it out, it hits them on the way out, then it hits them on the way back, and you can keep distance from them so your enemies aren't attacking you back, and most enemies are either ranged only or melee only, so since you can do both, it really screws them up real bad. So yeah, I've appreciated the combat. I haven't found it too difficult as of yet, and I feel like I've got more tools than I need, which I guess is a good place to be. How about you, Pete?
I mean, I did find the combat satisfying, notwithstanding my earlier criticisms about like the animation. Like the gameplay isn't my issue with this. Gameplay's very good, smooth. It's meant to be a power fantasy, right? And you feel that. You feel strong when you're Kratos. It's like the other ancillary stuff going on around the combat that makes me just sort of chuckle inwardly when I play it.
You mean when Kratos is like, "Boy, shut up,
Boy.
boy, I get
like,
you're
Don't
sad."
mistake my silence for grief. And I was like, oh, word. Like, that's okay. That's Kratos being subtle there.
Yeah, don't mistake my silence for lack of grief. And
Oh,
but
word.
I mean, to be fair, at the beginning of the game, like you burn Atreus' mom, and then you're immediately like, "Let's go on a quest."
Yeah.
No time for anything, just immediately a quest. And then whenever Atreus talks, Kratos tells him to shut the hell up.
I mean,
Fatherhood.
I was actually noticing as we were going, we're getting kind of off the topic we were on, but as we were getting closer to the top of the mountain, he does have like some moments where he's getting like a little bit more tender, I think, in his own way, not like,
Not like a normal human, but
he's not having any like real heart to hearts or anything, but he is sort of like taking into account Atreus's like emotional state a little bit more, especially after what happens in Alfheim, which kind of we'll get to as we get further into the story. But I think I'm interested to see where it's going to go in the second half, I'll say.
There are multiple scenes where like Kratos starts to like reach to like pat him on the back or whatever, and then like pulls back. They do it 3 times.
Yeah.
Like that's a lot, guys.
I think it's also kind of important to remember that like there are 3 games before this where all you've seen is angry Spartan who had a terrible upbringing and does not know how to show compassion because of the environment he grew up in and what he became. So
it's
that's
the same
kind of,
dude.
That's kind of like the best part of this story.
Okay.
You get to see like the development of Kratos kind of taking those, comforting moments and then building on them, towards the end of the story when, you get to that, you kind of see it all combine into an actual guy trying to be a father.
Mm-hmm.
I can't wait for Kratos to play Cats in the Cradle for his son.
Well, yeah, you get the swing set mini game where you have to push Atreus.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
Oh.
Kratos is in a rocking chair and he calls his son and his son says he's too busy and he's like, "Oh, if only I had talked to him when he was smaller. He learned from me."
He learned it from me.
Yeah, the best part when you have to play as Atreus to turn off the TV after Kratos falls asleep in front of it.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, this, from what we played, like the beginning of the game, there's not a lot of story beats. Like you leave, you fight Baldur, then you start climbing. Atreus is like, "Why don't you feel sad about mom?" And Kratos is like, "Shut up." You meet the Witch of the Woods because Kratos has Atreus shoot a boar just to see it die. Basically,
Target practice.
He keeps trying to teach Atreus how to hunt, and every time it's like it goes horribly wrong. He's like, "Well, now we are on a completely separate quest."
But Kratos does say that too, where he's like, "Faye, your mother was a way better hunter than I am." Because all Kratos know is hit thing hard and bash its brains in.
Yeah. The harder I hit thing, the better.
Is Atreus, like canonically, he has some sort of illness, and it seems like he has certain like fits. Is he supposed to be an epileptic?
I think he's just a god.
Oh, no.
He's a child god.
I mean, he like doesn't know how to deal with that.
He's got powers that he doesn't know how to deal with.
Because there was some fever or like sickness he had as a child.
He did say that he's like, at one point, he's like, "I'm not sick anymore," or something to that effect. So it seems like he was dealing with something for a while, but I don't think they ever explain
Not
like
yet.
what he was actually doing. Yeah.
Again, I won't spoil that part of the story, but you do get an explanation for that.
I figured. Yeah, I do like that, Rob, the distinction you're making that Kratos is a murderer, not a hunter.
Right.
He does not know how to simply kill an animal for sustenance.
Yeah.
He knows how to strangle a man with his bare hands.
That's in Ragnarok, there's one moment, not a spoiler, but you have Mimir on your back, and you're about to get into a fight, and he goes, so brother, do you think we can enter this one stealthily? And you just hear Kratos go, no.
Why would I do that?
Creators know that like you're never gonna do like a crouching Kratos.
Crouching Kratos is a pretty good yoga move. But yeah, I mean, you get this kind of few hunting scenes. You meet the Witch of the Woods, who I assume will be a Norse god of some kind, but you don't get her name because, of course, when they say her name, you'll know it's a Norse god. So right now, she's just the Witch of the Woods. You help her save a man who has turned into a boar, who thinks he's a boar now. Then she kind of sets you off on your journey. You end up at this big lake that is coiled around by the world serpent. You talk to the world serpent really briefly. It's real big. And
I thought that scene was very cool.
It is.
That was cool.
That scene always stuck with me when I first played it. It's like, damn, that's good shit.
Well, when you first meet Jormungandr and
It comes out of the water and
is huge.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I mean, that's really the God of War touch. That has always been what it's been good at, is its scale. God of War 3 was really great with scale. 2 was great with scale for a PS2 game. Like, it always managed to put the polygons where they needed to be to make you feel some awe.
Yeah.
And it was cool to see that again, because up until this point, you're just kind of wandering through the woods, murdering zombies. So seeing big god-sized things was cool. Then you go try to climb the mountain. You find some weird black smoke that doesn't let you. So you have to go to Alfheim, the land of the elves, where the light elves and the dark elves are fighting each other, and you need to just kind of get to the center so you can get some light.
Are you just saying it weird, or was it elves and I didn't notice?
They're elves, but
He's saying weird.
It's Alfheim, not Elfheim.
It's like tomato for Norse mythology.
Mm-hmm.
What did y'all think of the scene? So, like, you're fighting your way through, and Kratos and his son have banter back and forth, but I feel like the crux of that encounter, well, there's a few things. One, it's a war, and Kratos' son keeps saying we should help the Light Elves because they're getting massacred, and we can't just keep letting them get massacred. And Kratos says, I think one of the more prescient lines in this game, when he says, we are watching the end of a war. Mm-hmm. We don't know what happened to get us here, so let's not interfere. Like, you don't know what happened, so stay out of it. And his son refuses to, and the game doesn't let you actually stay out of it because the Dark Elves keep attacking you regardless of what you do. But you eventually fight your way to the center, to the light of Alfheim, which you need to put in a bottle, I guess.
It's like a key.
It's a key, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you fill it up with light, and then, Pete, would you mind expounding on what happens when you get into the light of Alfheim?
Sure. Gino, I just would like to agree with you, too. That was one of the smartest things Kratos said in the whole game. And I was like, that's a little subtlety. Which, he's a god of war. He understands war. Once you get into the light, you basically have, it's called like an out-of-body experience. Basically, Kratos is like witnessing things that he wasn't necessarily in that position when they first happened. And he hears his dead wife's voice and tries to sort of chase after her. And he ends up getting stuck in this light for what he thinks is mere moments. But boy has been out there just wrecking bug dudes for seemingly hours. Days, maybe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead, Em.
We don't know how long he was in there, but based on the amount of bodies around, he was fucking going through it. And he's very upset with you when you come out. He already had like kind of little respect for his father up until that point, and then after that he's just like moody teen about it going forward, which, you left him there. It was kind of fucked up, but you didn't know.
I do like that the son is like, Dad, you only talk to me when you want me to read things because you're illiterate.
I mean, it's true.
It's like
Not
it's
wrong.
like it's like, Dad, you don't ever want to talk to me. Do you even care about Mom? And like all of these scenes, and all Kratos would have to say is like, "Yes, I loved your mother, and I like talking to you for reasons other than you reading me things."
I'd
But
like
he
to
just
speak to you.
he just can't. He just can't bring himself to do it. So instead, he thinks about patting his son on the back and doesn't, which is pretty good. But yeah, I think that his reconciliation moment is he tells his son, "If it matters, I thought I was in there for only a few moments," and then his son's like, "It does matter, Dad. Thanks."
Yeah. It is quick forgiveness of a boy.
Yeah,
It seems like it might come back around, but I don't know.
yeah, probably. And then you fight your way out of Alfheim. You kill one of the like hot leaders of the Dark Elves, and then the Light Elves start flooding back in. But the Dark Elf King says that you shouldn't have done that. Basically, even though I was trying to murder you, you shouldn't have murdered me. You should have just died. But I feel like
Fucked up.
the Dark Elf King was really like putting them in a hard place. Like you jump out and attack them. You can't like say, "Oh, how dare you kill me."
Mhm.
That's one of my favorite. I think I would call it like a trope of God of War is that every time you go up against like a strong enemy, whether it be one of the gods you were fighting in God of War 3 or like the Dark Elf King in this one, it's like all of them are saying, "Oh, one of us is coming out of here, and it's not going to be you, Kratos." And literally every single time, it's Kratos coming out of that one.
And they always say like, "You
did-
have
You
killed
did something
me, you idiot."
wrong.
Shouldn't have done that. And it's like, okay, why'd you fight me then? Like,
You should have known.
you
I'm
could
the-
easily
I'm the
left
God
what
of War.
you do.
Yeah.
Thou shouldst have done the honorable thing and simply died. Yeah, so you escape Alfheim with the light. You get light arrows for your bow because this is a video game. The light arrows let you turn on crystals that let you navigate because it's kind of Metroidvania-y. Oh, we didn't talk about the dwarves. Do we need to talk about the dwarves?
No,
There's an
it's
upgrade
terrible.
system.
There's
I hate
two
them.
dwarves. They don't like each other, but they care about each other.
One's a
You-
germaphobe.
yeah.
Wait, Gino, did you say you hate them?
I hate
No.
them. I hate the dwarves. I
Don't
hate
like 'em?
what. Look, one of them's a Felix and one of them's an Oscar. One of them's a germaphobe. One of them says the F word. It's like, whoa, they're gonna fix my axe so that it does more damage. Like
Yeah,
they're
which-
weird comedic relief.
Is this an M for mature game? What
Of
was this
course it
rated?
is.
Okay.
Definitely.
Did you see
Yeah,
what
we
you
don't want
do
the
with that
youths
axe to people?
To see this.
There's so much blood in this game. If it were
I mean,
PG-
you take any
PG-13.
animals and just break their necks after you're done beating on them.
true.
You cut a dude in half if
Yeah.
you hold down
Cut any dudes in half.
the heavy button long enough.
Look, I don't know what these kids are into on TikTok these days. Or back in 2018, could be anything.
It's true. But yeah, I don't like the dwarves. Rod, do you like the dwarves? Is that it?
So, I mean, what I will say again, not to tell any, because I came in this late, so I don't know how, like, at what point you guys are going to talk about the story.
We're talking to the top of the mountain. The first
Okay.
time you get to the top of the mountain.
So, I think the kind of important thing to remember is that the cast is small in this game.
Yes.
So you're only going to be dealing with, X amount of characters throughout the, let's say, 30 hours that it takes to complete the story. So it's like you see a lot of development from the ridiculous, yin and yang of Brock and Sindri to them actually becoming like an important part of the story and characters that I didn't care about in the beginning necessarily, but who I cared about a lot in the end. Because, if you do some of the side missions as well, like you're running favors for them, and it kind of gets you a little bit more connected with the people that you were just going to for, upgrades for your armor or your weapons. So I really love Brock and Sindri. I think Sindri's one of my favorite characters in the game, but I could see where you're coming from with your distaste of the
Well, so far they're comic relief characters.
Right.
I've done a favor for each of them, but it's pretty early in the game. Sindri so far has just kind of cowered and said, "Ew, don't hand me that dragon tooth. It's all gross."
Yeah.
So they have room to grow, I'm sure. And it's clear that both of them made the axe for Kratos' wife because she helped them earlier on, and like we got some hints of what that story is, but we don't have the full context yet. So I have a feeling they will eventually become more important. But right now it's pretty early. Right now I don't love them.
Yeah, I agree with you. I see where you're coming from.
Did Pete, you or M do the favors that are given to us at this point for either of them?
No, I haven't done them yet.
I don't know what I did that was like part of the main story, or if I did actual favors for them at this point. I don't think so.
You have to go off the beaten path for the favors. So like when you get back from Alfheim, the world is kind of more opened up, and you can take your boats to go like down different side paths from the main lake. So if you just kind of boat around the perimeter, you'll end up in basically 2 spokes that will take you to side quests for the dwarves. There's also some other side quests that you can stumble upon in the lake. I did both of those. One of them was to find a ring for the blue dwarf.
Oh, yeah, I did do that.
And then you try to find a whetstone for the other dwarf. And the whetstone quest was a little bit... I found that pretty cool because it led me to basically a spirit of a guy who tried to pillage this cache for like cache, C-A-C-H-E, cache, not C-A-S-H. He tried to pillage this gigantic, pile of treasure, and then he gets stabbed in the back by his son, and then the son runs away with it, and you happen across this guy's ghost, and then your son is like, so he stabbed his dad in the back? And Kratos is like, you don't know what that man did to his son. We showed up at the end. Maybe something real bad happened back there. Who knows?
Is he just reusing that line like over and over again?
Yeah. Kratos' life lesson is always like, if you see people killing each other, don't concern yourself with it.
Stay out of it. It's probably not your business.
I mean, if you're Kratos, you basically killed a ton of people and gods. Like that would probably be your stance, right? Just stay out of it.
Well, oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Well, I was just gonna ask. You probably know better than I do. In the earlier games in the series, does Kratos do a lot of like getting roped into things like that, and then it turns out, oh, fucked up. I shouldn't have gotten involved.
I mean, I don't. So ultimately, like the storyline with Athena, in the first couple of games, like the crux of it all is I should have never gotten involved in any of this. So I mean, you have the very beginning of the story when Kratos, he was about to be killed by a person on the battlefield, and he, shouts out like, Ares, if you protect me or give me your strength, then I will serve you forever. And then it's like you reach the end of God of War 3 after he kills Zeus, and he's like, well, I shouldn't have gotten into any of this to begin with. So I mean, that it's like I don't think you have favors or side missions necessarily. It's been a while since I've played 1, 2, and 3, but I think this is the first game where it kind of is like a big important part of the storyline, or at least the exploratory content.
So he did learn a lesson, and it was, damn, that was fucked up. Not going to do that again. Spends his whole game getting roped into shit.
It's funny that Gino brings up, Atreus saying he stabbed his father in the back, because that's a huge, important part of this story is, the cycle of patricide, sons killing their fathers, fathers killing their children. So, it's cool to see that be reflected in the main story as well as in the side quest that you're doing, because if you didn't get that from the main story, then they are like hammering it home in the side content as well.
Just in case you were wondering if Kratos's parenting skills might have consequences, they're giving you side quests where it's like, hey, it seems like this guy really abused his son, and then his son killed him. Maybe that applies to you. Who's to
I
say?
wonder if that is reinforcing the themes.
There is something I wanted to bring up too, and it's a little bit off the topic that we were talking about, but the side quests in this game have like incredible depth. I would even consider it like almost on Witcher 3 Wild Hunt kind of detail, but some of the story elements and the quotes that you can pick up from these side missions, like the one where you're trying to retrieve that ring for Sindri. Yeah,
The
I
other
think
one.
it's Sindri. Yeah,
Brock. Yeah.
or Brock. Yeah, that has one my favorite one of my favorite quotes in the game, and it's like when you're right about to fight the Soul Eater, who apparently steals your soul, and you aren't allowed to go to Valhalla, but you fight it anyways. I think Atreus says something like, "Oh, we're gonna fight that thing," and
Oh yeah.
Atreus says to him, "We have to fight it because you're afraid of it," and that's like one of the like acorns of parenting that you see in the very beginning. That it's like, okay, there is like Kratos is capable of becoming a parent. We just need to see where it goes from here. Like
Yeah,
beginning stages of it, and then it develops.
I loved that line because
Yeah.
it basically Kratos spends a bunch of time on that mission as you're getting towards the Soul Eater, saying like, we shouldn't fight this thing, we should stay out of this, we shouldn't even be doing favors for these stupid dwarves. And by the time you get to the monster, Atreus is like, so should we just leave, right? Like the thing that he wants is not really like attainable. And Kratos is like, no, you're scared of this thing, so we have to fight it. I'm not fighting it for him, I'm fighting it for you, basically, to get you over this fear. And boy, oh boy, man can only communicate through violence, but there's texture.
Texture to the violence.
There's texture to the violence. He's like, yeah, I'm going to punch this guy's head off, but I'm doing it to get you over your fear of soul eaters. Or like, I'm going to punch this guy until you're not sad about mom anymore. He's got one language, but he's trying to use it to express different things, and that's kind of fun. So yeah, once you decide to go on the main quest again, you start climbing the mountain. You fight your way through some like dwarven mines sort of deal, and then you eventually get to the top. You fight a dragon. You get lightning arrows, and then at the very top you find Momir. Momir is the magic card. Whoops. Mimir is he's the god of he's basically the Norse god of wisdom. He's stuck in a tree.
God, or is he just a guy?
He's a god.
He's a god.
Okay.
He's immortal. He's got fancy eyes that let him see everything. But he's stuck in a tree. Odin stuck him in a tree and has been basically torturing him every day for 100 years or something. And he's being basically shaken down by Odin's sons. So, what's his name? The guy you think you killed at the beginning of the game. Balder. Balder's there.
Thor.
I think Thor's there. There are three voices, but we only hear two,
So
right?
it's Balder, and then it's Thor's sons, so Magni and Modi.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Which
We don't know that yet. At this
Which
point,
you don't know that yet. Yeah, I don't think you know that until you meet them face to face, which is like if you have what's it called, like text to speech on or whatever subtitles.
Oh yeah,
it'll just say like stranger number 1, stranger number 2, stranger number 3.
Yeah, you recognize one of the voices, but you don't recognize the other ones. But basically, Mimir says, "You're not going to kill me. You're not allowed to. You're not allowed to hurt me. Only Odin gets to hurt me. So just piss off. You can't kill me. I can't hurt you. So get out of here." And then Kratos shows up with his son, and they strike a bargain with Mimir, basically saying they'll cut Mimir's head off and then have his head resurrected so that he can he can be free from the tree. So he becomes like a little head on your belt, and that's kind of where we left things.
But we also know where we're heading, which is
Jotunheim.
Yeah, we climbed to the top of this mountain, and it was a big ordeal. And then we get to the top, and Mimir is like, you guys want to go to this mountain, which is way taller. here, check it out. I got a door that faces it, and then shows you a way taller mountain. You're like, fuck. Now we have to figure out a way to get to Jotunheim, which
it's like the most literal your princess is in another castle moment.
Yeah. Literally, like
you must spread your princess's ashes on another castle. Sorry.
Yeah. I was just gonna say that it's. I wonder if you would, if you personally got to the top of a fucking mountain after fighting your way up, like past dragons and shit. A dragon. There was another one that was a side thing. And then you got to the top of the mountain and you were like, nope, it's not the tallest mountain. Would you be like, damn, I guess I gotta bring my wife to that mountain instead? Would you be like, this one's pretty tall?
I'm surprised Kratos wasn't like, that woman didn't know about the other mountain. She'd never been to any of the other realms. It's probably fine. She doesn't know.
Well,
She specifically requested the tallest mountain in the 9 realms.
So that's kind of one of the biggest things too about this story is that you kind of figure out what's going on. I mean, you get more questions than answers at the end of this game, but there's also that kind of looming like question the whole time where it's okay. Kratos' wife has this plan for them, and like how am I trying to put it? It's like, what does she know that we don't know?
Yeah.
And why is she, why are we going through this whole, rigmarole because she wants her ashes spread at the top of some huge mountain? Like, if I was Kratos, I'd probably just be like, let's just do it this one. But, I mean, there is also the story aspect of, no, Faye had these specific requirements, and there has to be a reason why we are doing this.
It's worth noting, way in the beginning of the game, there's like a ward around their house, which is only broken because Faye marked them, like the trees that were holding up the ward, as trees to use for her funeral pyre. So
she's been a jerk the whole time.
she definitely has been pulling the strings for what she wants them to do since the very beginning.
I can't believe she's been calling them to action this whole time.
Yeah, the call to action.
Rude of her.
That would be a great segue if I had actually gotten the AI generation to work to get the story I wanted out of it.
Damn it. I thought you might have, so I thought that was a layup right there.
I'm sorry. Also, my roommate has informed me that it's also canon that all of the yellow paint that is guiding you is left by Faye, which I did not know.
I mean, she has those handprints at the beginning.
Well, so is it like also the paint that kind of marks you to where to go? Like, okay, you have to kind of shimmy through this hole. Is it that paint too?
I'll just ask out loud. Is it all the paint that's like shimmy through this little hole? Is that the paint?
Yeah. So all of the paint, like shimmy, climb, or jump,
Ah.
the same color paint as the handprint on the tree.
Yeah. All of those are the same paint as the handprint in the beginning of the game.
I just assumed that was game design, and I hope that that's not diegetic storytelling. I hope that's not supposed to all be
No, it is.
Like she's.
That's what he's saying. It is.
I choose to believe that's game design. I choose to believe she did not spend untold hours.
She went everywhere you went way before you did.
So I mean, that goes back to what I was saying. Is that what did Kratos' wife know that we don't?
Right.
Is one of the biggest questions that's driving this whole narrative.
Probably how to emote.
Definitely how to hunt.
How to connect with your child. How to talk to your son.
Speak in more than one word sentences.
Or grunts.
Yep. Boy, read me this story. And then he just walks away. He's like, boy, read this thing. And then he just ignores him.
Is
Doesn't even say
is
thank you.
Kratos? Is he actually illiterate? Can he read
No,
Greek?
he just doesn't know. He just doesn't know
He doesn't know
the
runes?
alphabet of this.
So he
Yeah.
can read Greek. Like there are moments in the
Yes.
previous games where he reads Greek.
I've much like what's her name from Glee. I've never seen Kratos read.
Oh yeah, what is her name? It's like the people were saying that she can't read either, and she's never denied it.
Yes.
What?
What's her name? Leah Michelle. Much like Leah Michelle,
Oh.
I have never seen Kratos read, so I don't know for sure. I don't remember if he reads in the original God of Wars. There's a lot more stabbing than reading. So it's really unclear to me if he's ever been able to read. I mean, he's a Spartan. He might not be able to read. But it's just choose whichever you want. Either he's not literate in runes or he's just not literate. But
No, I mean, I think in the game somewhere they talk about how, or Atreus says like, you just never took the time to understand.
To learn.
Yeah, it's
Right.
like when you're in Alfheim and you're doing the sand bowl for one of the first times, and Atreus is saying, "No, here, let me teach you," and then Kratos is like, "Boy, I gotta smash!" Like,
boy, I love smashing. Yeah.
Boy,
time to read.
there are two things I do: kill and push blocks to solve puzzles.
Neither of those things are involved in reading.
Yep.
I do love all the sand bowls with their stupid riddles, and Kratos just can't just solve them. And so far they've all been very simple riddles.
The game also never asks you to solve them.
Yeah. There's no option to
Atreus
just.
figures it out.
I mean, you
It's
gotta
water.
find the rune. Yes, it was
He gets
water
sick
for
of
the
them,
first
too.
one.
Atreus
I think-
is
I think-
fucking
I
riddles.
think mechanically it is a little bit weird that you do this big puzzle and then like you have the riddle and it's just like the answer. It's just the answer.
You just need to stab a knife into some sand, and then there you go. That's it.
it's like-
It really is. You're solving riddles with stabbing.
The characters don't even go into like any sort of guessing mode, like, oh, could it be time? Could it be lightning?
Water?
No, it's just like you do the puzzle and it's like, oh, the answer's right in front of our faces. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Thank goodness someone wrote the answer right here. Otherwise, we'd be shit out of luck, wouldn't we?
You know how much faster the game would be if you could just walk up to the bowl and then like input an answer? That would
Yeah.
save so much time.
I mean, that's the thing too. Is like on my fourth playthrough, I knew all of the answers beforehand, so I was like, "Kratos, it's water. Kratos, it's water. Water."
Please, I don't want to have to do all this.
I know how the puzzle works. Just do the fucking sand bowl thing.
Within it, without it, you're dead. But in you, it's life. It's water, Kratos. It's water the whole time. Come on. Yeah. So yeah, I mean, so far the story's good. I'm looking forward to playing more of this. The combat's enjoyable for sure. It's a smooth experience. I come away from this so far feeling like this is almost an Ubisoft open world formula, but polished more, like a ton more. They made it more linear instead of just having a bunch of icons calling you in different directions. There's actually a narrative that's stringing you through and giving you reasons to spend more time in each of these places. But at the end of the day, when you pop up that map, there's going to be a ton of stupid symbols on it telling you to go open this chest and talk to that dude.
Sounds like you got to do more side quests. Get rid of those symbols.
I know. So like there's that going on. And one thing I definitely feel so far is the deadness of the world. Like you said, Rob, earlier, that it's a very small cast, right? There's two dwarves, Kratos, his son, and the witch right now are like the characters you speak to who you're not trying to actively kill. It seems like Mimir is now going to be another character who's kind of involved. But this world is all people trying to kill you. There's not much here to latch onto besides the story you're currently involved in, right? Like you don't get the sense of what places are because everything's ruins. And I feel like, I don't know, it's kind of a dead world, and I wish there was a little bit more context. I wish there was a little bit more of the culture, because each of these worlds, you're fighting your way through these cityscapes, but there's no nuance to who the elves are, for example, the dark elves, the light elves. You're fighting your way through Midgard, and there's not a lot of sense of, okay, who are these Reavers? Where do they live? Like, are Kratos and his son the only people capable of sentient thought? It seems like it. And everyone else, they just bash their brains in. So I wish that there was just a little bit more context. Even in God of War, like, there was a little bit more, the original game. But not much. I'm not saying like a ton, but there were a few more people you could talk to occasionally.
I will say, compared to, like, I just remember trying to play Assassin's Creed Odyssey, which by all accounts was liked. And everywhere you go, and every city has like 50 people. And all of them want something from you. I was like, playing this game where it's just you and sometimes you are talking to some dwarves. It's like, this is so relaxing. I feel so much better about an open world when there is nothing in it. Which is,
I don't know.
I guess, less open.
I don't know if this is a scapegoat answer or not, but it kind of almost feels intentional that the world is like there is so little context because again, Kratos is an outsider to this world too. So and Atreus is 12 years old. So of course neither of them are they're not really gonna know anything except what Faye told them. So what you're trying to do, what as the characters, you are trying to figure out, what's going on in this world at the same time they're figuring it out.
Sure.
So, I mean, it could be it could be intentional by, Sony Santa Monica who created this game. It could also just be, we want our players to know as little as possible for, the ending of the story that's in Ragnarok.
Yeah, and I feel like maybe it's just because I've played so many Action Dad games where it's Action Dad and their surrogate child waddling through a hellscape. I mean, we had one of our earliest podcasts was playing The Last of Us, The Walking Dead, and BioShock Infinite, and each of those games is Action Dad plus daughter wandering through hellscape, murdering, zombies.
By pure happenstance, there was Sad Dad Hour.
Yeah, we picked all of them as like non-romantic relationships in games, and all three of them were sad dads.
I mean, Octodad too. I mean, let's not forget that.
You can't never forget Octodad. So it's just of the sad dad action games where a sad dad learns to speak about their feelings, kind of. This is the quietest of them. This is the fewest characters. It has the fewest interactions with other characters with agency. And so I'm just feeling it as someone who at this point has played like 4 or 5 of this exact storytelling style, I should say. It just jumps out more.
There is world reason as to why you're not running into other people.
Yeah.
It kind of boils down to like, however, there was some sort of like desolation in Midgard. It's whenever Jormungandr showed up, and when he kind of raveled himself up, he also drowned out a lot of the surrounding area that had people in it. So people have both either died in drowning in the Lake of Nine, or they moved so far away from the Lake of Nine because they're like, oh my God, there's a massive snake that I don't want to get eaten by.
Yeah, well, so, that thing's crazy. I don't want any of that smoke.
Yeah, it's like, oh, I don't want to be eaten on a Tuesday. Like maybe Wednesday, is not that day. So there is explanation as to why there are not people around.
It's the end of the world, right?
Close to it.
I
It's
mean,
like
the next
supposed to be-
the next one's called Ragnarok, so I assume Ragnarok happens.
Yeah, so
Maybe.
like, I mean, I will say it gets remedied in Ragnarok, but there it to I think who was it? Gino's point. I mean, again, it's a dead setting. Um, it gets remedied in Ragnarok, and at times it does feel overwhelming.
Yeah, I don't think that this is like a fatal criticism. It's just as someone who, like I said, I've played a lot of this style of story, and this one being the most desolate just jumps out because the other ones were literal zombie apocalypses, and there were more people to talk to and things to kind of learn than just talking to the same three people all the time. But it seems like the world's going to expand. It's just the first 10 hours, so there's still room for it. I'm just remarking on it because it stood out because I've seen this sort of narrative so much.
Right.
What's the next? So they've done ancient Greece. They've done Norse.
Japan.
What's their next pantheon?
So I think they're going to go this direction with the next Pantheon. This game originally was going to be Egypt, and I think they are going to do that in the next installment if there is.
That's very different.
When there is a next installment.
I feel like Egyptian mythology, you need to have a mythology where the religion is largely dead so that there are not people around to get pissed off about it.
I was thinking Hindu pantheon, and then I was like, that's
no, that would go poorly.
Yeah, like they can't have like Shiva. Like people would be mad.
I mean,
you could probably do Japanese mythology if you wanted to.
I have a book of myths and legends on my desk right now. Let's say African, probably can't do that. Celtic, I don't know.
Oh yeah, you could do that.
Celtic.
Celtic.
I don't know anything about Celtic lore, but I guess I could read this book and find out. Chinese might be sketchy as well, but
you know what? I think they should
fight the Monkey King.
Ooh, that'd be cool.
Yeah.
I think what they should do is instead of Greek, they should do Roman mythology, and it's the exact same game. They just changed the names.
That'd be funny.
You again? You're alive? No.
Jupiter? What are you doing here?
You have Kratos saying, "Wait, didn't I fight someone just like you years ago?
Why are you going by Jupiter now?"
It's got to just be the same character models with mustaches.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's kind of it for the first 10 or so hours of God of War. Looking forward to more of it, Pete?
Yeah, I'm dunking on the story just a little bit. It's not bad. It's just sort of, like Gino said, what we've seen before. But the gameplay is very good. The combat is very satisfying. I'm happy to embody a rage monster for another few hours.
Any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I've been having fun. I wanted to ask Rob what we have to look forward to. Anything without spoiling it. Is there good stuff coming? Will we be satisfied?
So, I mean, again, coming from, kind of a biased perspective.
So someone who says this is their favorite game ever, is it great?
Is it good or is it very good?
So what I kind of wanted to mention before is, so when we talked about combat, I mean, there's very little done in this game where it changes or progresses moving forward. I mean, there is a big change at a point, but then after that, it's a lot of the kind of the same stuff, which might sound bad, but I think, if you're doing combat very well, don't try to do too much. So, where you kind of get tired of maybe some of the combat elements, I mean, the story just knocks it out of the park because it goes in directions that you probably wouldn't have seen coming, or maybe you would see it coming, but not necessarily in the way that it happens. So I will say that, yeah, we have seen a lot of games, again, like Last of Us, where it's disgruntled father and unknowing child, but I think this game just does it better than any game I've played of that genre.
Sure. Yeah, and we didn't really talk about the crafting because there's a crafting system. I don't think we need to talk too much about it. You get a bunch of doodads. You can use them to make your weapon better or your armor better. But there is a crafting system. I feel like I might have glossed over that.
Still one of my least favorite things that have become standard in games lately.
Yeah.
I don't need a whole thing. Please don't make me do a whole thing.
Don't make me collect 12 bangles so I can make one chest piece or whatever.
I was going to say, this game has so many collectibles. Too many to think of. And
I love...
When I was 100% in the game, I did it, 2 weeks ago, in preparation for Ragnarok, and trying to find all of the artifact sets, and kill all of Odin's ravens made me want to claw my eyes out. Like there's
sucks.
Side missions and stuff, which again bring a lot of depth to the cast and really kind of explain the story a little bit better. But the collectibles, oh my God, Odin's ravens! I never want to do that again. And they brought him back for Ragnarok, so it's just another thing I'm doing. But
I mean, my favorite part is with the collectibles is it's always like, here's a person, here's their skeleton, and it's holding this thing, and it's vendor trash. Like, whatever it is, it's vendor trash. You pick it up, it's like, here's the head of a boat that capsized. Yeah. I'm going to sell this for 3,000 hack silver, which is like 10, I don't know, urns that you smash worth. It's very funny that, like, these things that are supposed to be some sort of meaningful object or artifact of the world to Kratos is just a knickknack to trade in for upgrade materials.
I mean, if you look in Brock and Sindri's shop,
do they put them up?
I think they put them up, yeah. Which is like
neat.
It's a little neat thing, but again, to Gino's point, it's like, oh my God, I've just collected the whole artifact set. Cool, I could sell it now. Like,
time to trade it in.
Yeah, time to trade it in for my in-game currency. Yeah.
Another one of my favorite needlessly badass Kratos moves is he doesn't open chests. He just punches straight through the top.
Oh my God, that's the best. It's so good. It's so over the top.
I thought he was smashing his head into them because sometimes the angle just looks like he's just headbutting those chests.
He's just setting a good example to his son, just constantly grave robbing.
Yeah.
And yeah, I do enjoy one time Atreus actually said, how's about we just leave the temple instead of pillaging the priceless artifacts? And Kratos is like, shut up, boy.
I think there is a scene where there's so there's the wooden chest that you break open, but then there's the stone ones that you lift the top. They're basically just like coffins. And
they are coffins.
Yeah, Atreus just goes why are we taking that? And Kratos just goes, well, he's not going to need it.
Yep.
So I don't know. That was funny to me. I mean, those little Kratos quips that it's like he's so deadpan serious all the time that he doesn't understand that it's funny.
He doesn't need his femur, son.
Yeah.
We could use it to beat someone to death with.
We can use this.
All right, so I think that covers it. We'll get some AI generated essays when we finish God of War 2018. So look forward to that. We got good feedback on the previous AI generated essays.
People seem to like it.
We don't want to be spoiled by the AI, you know.
Yeah.
So thank you, Pete.
Yeah, like I said, I'm excited to see where this goes, especially now that I hear the story has some twists and turns in the second half.
Thank you, Em.
Thank you. Looking forward to another, 20 hours of this game?
Thereabouts.
Yay.
And thank you, Rob, special guest, expert.
Yeah, no, thank you so much, guys. Really appreciate you, having me on here and inviting me. Hope to also be invited back for the second half because...
No.
I mean, I would love to talk shop about the second half of the game because that's where it really, blossoms for me.
Awesome. And thank you, listeners. Reminder, you can get in touch with the show at Deep Listens Pod on Twitter, deeplistens@libsyn.com. We have our comment sections and deeplistenspodcast@gmail.com. That's our email address. You can also support the show on patreon.com/deeplistens, which would get you access to our Discord. And please, if you're in a position to do so, support the National Network of Abortion Funds. Till next time, peace.